My name is Komna Atite. I'm a research fellow in biostatistics and computational biology branch of the U.S. National Institute of Environmental Health Science. Today, I'll talk about boosting data interpretations with GeoBoost to enhance visualizations and interpretability. First, I will talk about the problem of a visualization. And second, I'll give details on different metrics and methods we develop to quantify visualization. And lastly, I'll present a new integration tool we developed to enhance visualization and interpretability. The goal of a visualization is pretty clear, is to make sense of the data. Without a visualization, it's challenging to communicate the data finding. So to give an overview of problem of visualization, we perform a single-cell experiment on tumor lung tissue of a lung adenocarcinoma patient. So they experimentally to generate a gene expression data for analysis. Later on, we select two different methods that we name here as a method A and method B to study cell heterogeneity, which lead us to identify 5 different cell types. It includes macrophage, naive T cell, cytotoxic T cell, normal epithelial cell, and malignant epithelial cell, which is a cancer cell. The results show that method A presents separation, better separation between clusters, which is often optimized by UMAP, TSNE, SCVS. And method B shows a connection between the different cell types. It's a feature which is often optimized by methods such as PCA, FATE, and autoencoder. The question is, should good visualizations be limited to exploration alone, like it's shown by method A? The answer is simple. We believe that taking account of cell functionality is crucial. For instance, let's talk about the role of a macrophage in the immune system communication. Macrophage acts as an antigen-presenting cell by identifying and presenting cancer cell to the naive T cell for their activations. That justifies the reason why macrophage is aligned between the naive T cell and the cancer cell. So taking account of that, we can say that comparing the performance of method A and method B presents better visualizations. So this example is just to highlight the need to take into consideration both exploration and cell functionality when evaluating visualization. So given this need, a new computational tool is required to handle both exploration and cell functionality while reducing a single cell high-dimensional data. So to do that, it leads us to think of our proposed method, which we call GeoBoost. The goal of GeoBoost is to integrate different information obtained from different dimensionality reducing methods to enhance the visualization, to give a better insight for understanding a biological process. So in this case, the GeoBoost has a duty to integrate the separably cluster information and the spatially cluster information into a combined separably and the spatially cluster information, while taking into consideration to minimize variance and bias in the original data. So to do that, we need firstly to be able to identify different features or different information that each individual method optimized during dimensionality reduction. So to do that, we firstly develop a framework that we call MIPCOVIS. So MIPCOVIS has a duty to enable a user to identify a specific feature which a method optimized during dimensionality reduction. So the pipeline of MIPCOVIS can be described in 3 different steps or stages. The first stage consists of collecting different methods that we aim to rank their performance. And the second stage consists of developing and using different metrics to quantify visualizations. Here, we define visualizations as a concept depending on 5 different features. And for each feature, we develop metrics to evaluate the performance of method. For instance, the first matrix is named separability index. It assesses the cluster separability or the separation between clusters. And the second matrix is called occupation index. It assesses the coverage of the low-dimensional space. And the third matrix is called uniformity index. It evaluated the uniform spread of data in the low-dimensional space. And the fourth is called time order structure index. It assesses the time dependency of data in the low dimensional space. And lastly, the fifth is called gradient boosted classifier index, which we name as GI. It has a goal to assess how the method preserve the structure of the original data in the low dimensional space. And the third stage of MICOVIS is lay on Bayesian multi-level model to evaluate the conditional effect of each feature of matrix on the performance of method in reducing high-dimensional data. So it leads us to compute the postural distributions of the conditional effect of matrix. And later on, we use a high-density interval of the metric of the postural distribution function to score the performance of method, such that for low interval correspond weak performance, and the high interval provide the best performance. And later on, we compare the DI, the performance of DI, to the traditional method, which evaluates crossing accuracy. And the output, among those traditional methods, it includes silhouette coefficient, Davis-Bouldin, and the manifold preservations. And the outputs show that the GI booster or GI outperform the three traditional methods in evaluating crossing accuracy. So for scientific analysis, we use four different types of data. It includes EMT, iPSC data, spermatogenesis data, and codex multiplex imaging protein data. And also, we selected the 6 most used dimensionality reducing method for implementation. So this is the result, the average result of using the 4 different data. So the 5 plots are related to the 5 different metrics. And the dashed red line represents the average score of using the 6 dimensionality reduction method. As you can see, none of the 6 methods we selected have optimized the 5 features for good visualization simultaneously. It means the performance of a dimensionality reduction method is related to optimizing the specific feature for good visualization. So this work is published in the journal Briefing in Bioinformatics. Now that we are able to identify a specific feature that each individual method optimized during dimensionality reduction, we can proceed with integration. So, as I say, the DI booster has a duty to integrate 2 different information from 2 different methods while minimizing variance and bias, which represent the feature for gradient boosted classifier index that we name as a GI. So here I will give details on GI booster. So the first part of GI booster consists of using AI tool. The AI tools has a duty to identify the top 2 methods that presented the highest complementary information for data integration. So the pipeline of a GI booster of the AI tool can be described in 3 different steps. The first step consists of providing a pool of different dimensionality reducing methods that we name here as a DRAM A, DRAM B, and DRAM C. And each of them has the ability to give an output of reduced data, giving a high dimensional data. The second step consists on using Bayesian multi-level model to identify the specific feature which any method optimizes. And the third step consists of evaluating the additive effect of a feature from a different dimensionality reduction method. And here, the AI tool has a duty to select the most effective combination of methods that maximize the additive performance of GI. Now, later on, the GI booster use an optimized autoencoder to integrate the reduced data obtained from the top 2 selected dimensionality reducing method. Here, the number of neurons and the bus size of the autoencoder have been selected in the way that they minimize the variance and bias of the integrated data. So now for scientific analysis, we use 4 different types of data. But due to the lack of time, I will give you the output of the first 2 data we have used. And also as a input of a GI booster, we use 4 different methods. It includes TSNE, UMAP, PCA, and FATE. So this is the result of the first data we use, EMT data. EMT stands for epithelial mesenchymal transition, which involves cellular dynamic change from epithelial to mesenchymal, so that the cancer cell can exist at the epithelial state or mesenchymal state, or it can exist at any partial state between epithelial and the mesenchymal. So here, as in application, the AI tool of DI Booster selected T-SNE and FATE for optimal complementary data to yield its output. Now, we pass by different techniques to evaluate the effectiveness of our DI Booster. The first one is for qualitative validations. We compare DI Booster cell state to those obtained experimentally, which follow the order epithelial, partial EMT, mesenchymal, and the partial MET. And as output, we see that DI Booster align cell state with the real order observed from the experiment, unlike other independent methods. So for quantitative validation, we see that the DI Booster outperformed the 4 different methods by minimizing variance and bias in the original data. And also, its output more closely matches the original data. Now, the second data is the placenta development data, which involves 28 clusters. Here, the AI tool favors UMAP and the FATE for optimal complementary data to yield its output. Again, to validate the effectiveness of DI Booster, we see that DI Booster achieve best feature score for covering the maximum space of low dimensional to covering the low dimensional space, and also it help us to give another optimizations of separating well the cluster in the low dimensional space. So both of those features were the feature which has been optimized by the top 2 selected methods. As you can see here we have UMAP which optimizes the separability index, and we have a FATE which optimizes the occupation index. And when you see in DI Booster here, DI Booster perform or optimize both of those features for good visualization. It justifies that really DI Booster make integrations by taking account of those 2 features which has been optimized by the top 2 selected method. And for quantitative validation here also, we see that the DI Booster outperformed the 4 different methods by minimizing variance and bias, and also its output more closely matches the original data. So, in conclusion, I can say that this work justifies the effectiveness and the efficiency of DI Booster, which provide a tool or a feature that help to understand cell-cell communication, and it can be used as a tool to enhance analysis and understanding of a complex biological process through visualization and interpretability. These are the references for this work, and here I'm going to thank my collaborator for their contribution and support. It includes Dr. Lee, Dr. Papas, Dr. Motsinga, and the leader of the group called Dr. Benedict Achan. Thank you for your contribution and support. Thank you for listening. So I'm open to answer any of your questions.
How large of a parameter, hyperparameter space do you explore for T-SNE and UMAP? Because they can both really focus on local or global distances, but they can't do both at the same time. So is this GI Boost, what is it optimizing for, local or global?
Okay, good question. Well, firstly, to avoid any bias in comparing the performance of method, we use the default parameter of each of them. Okay, the default parameter of each method, whether that is T-SNE, UMAP, FATE, or whatever. Now, the goal of DI Booster is that we know our previous work we published lead us to know that there's no method which perform or which reduce high dimensional data by taking account of different, many or multiple features. So, for example, UMAP just specifically handle the separation of clusters. The goal of DI Booster is to add to that feature another type of feature that another method optimize. That's the goal of DI Boost. You can use any type of method you want, but the goal of DI Boost is efficiency, is to help you to get more information in the single data you obtain after dimensionality reduction. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay.
More questions? Well, I have a question.
Okay.
Given all the discussions in the literature regarding UMAPs, when the method chooses a UMAP, how reliable is it?
No, please. I don't hear you. I didn't hear you.
Given all the discussions in the literature regarding UMAPs, when the method chooses UMAP, how reliable do you think those separations are?
Okay. Well, I can answer this question by saying that using UMAP independently for any analysis, I can say that it's not correct, because your information will be partial, will be depending on just what UMAP is good at doing. Of course, if you check the literature, they will say that UMAP optimize global structure and whatever. But I can tell you, confirm that it's not true. Our past research we publish show evidence that UMAP just doesn't care about all the parameters. It just care about how clusters should be separated. It's focused on explorations. UMAP will help you to know which type of differential type the data involved, but not letting you know about how connected each cell type are. That's not good for good interpretability, because we are in biomedical field. We need to know how cells communicate between each other. Just not know only what type of cell are involved. It's not enough as information.